Hi guys, this is Coach Chris Campbell with EcoXFit, here to give you some paddleboard tips for the upcoming FLIPANY FunRun and Paddle on January 9th, located in Hollywood Beach on the Broadwalk. So to start, we're going to talk about your grip on the paddle. You want to make sure you have one hand on top to give you a nice, strong, firm grip and control the paddle, and your other hand just about shoulder width or a little outside shoulder width apart on the paddle itself. From there, we're going to talk about which way to face your paddle. A common mistake is most people will turn their paddle down so the angle is facing towards them, and that's going to create drag and slow you down. So the proper way to do it is to hold the paddle with the angle of the paddle facing forward or away from you, so you can generate a little bit of lift. You can glide nice and smoothly on the water. So next, let's talk about your stance on the board. You want to position yourself somewhat in the middle of the board to keep it nice and balanced. If you're too far forward on the board, you might put the nose down in the water, create some drag. If you're too far back, you're going to start turning yourself, lifting that nose up. So we want to be right in the middle of the board with a nice athletic stance, feet shoulder width apart with your knees bent, in that ready position, just like if you're playing any other ground sport. And you're ready to reach out in front and start paddling. Now that we're in our athletic stance, we want to start our stroke. So we're going to keep those knees bent. We're going to reach out, keeping our arms straight. We want to try to stack our shoulders vertically here. Common mistake people will do, first timers, is paddle with their arms and their shoulders like so, and that's going to tire you out really quickly. So we want you to use your muscles in your back and your core, meaning your lats, your obliques here. So we're going to keep those arms straight. We're going to stack those shoulders vertically like so, keeping our butt back and our shoulders forward, and we're going to pull back towards our feet, stopping at about our feet, reach back, forward again, and repeat. So to launch your board from a dock or marina, you want to make sure you sit on the edge of the dock like so with your board next to you, holding your paddle in hand. You don't want to forget that. So you're going to come down to your hands and knees like so, and you can push yourself off, give yourself a little nudge to get away from the dock. And the same thing when you return, you come back up to the edge, holding onto your paddle again from your knees, crawling and sitting right up on the edge. So when launching your paddleboard from the beach, you want to make sure you walk that paddleboard out, carrying it to a depth where you don't drag your fins on the bottom. Once you're there, go ahead and put the board down. You're going to get on the board on the middle, on your knees to start, and start paddling. Once you're comfortable to get up, you go to your hands and knees, 1 foot at a time. Stand up to that athletic stance. A couple of reminders when paddling. You want to make sure that your paddle gets all the way down into the water before you start your pull, and you want to keep that paddle vertical when you start your pull. And that's going to give you a lot of power and strength. And again, pulling back to your feet. You don't want to pull behind your feet because you'll lose some of that power and efficiency. So you reach out in front, that paddle goes down deep into the water, the stick is vertical, you're going to pull back towards your feet, and repeat. Okay, so we talked about keeping that paddle deep down in the water on your stroke. Now we want to make sure we keep it close to your board on the pull. That's going to keep your board nice and straight on each stroke. If you want to turn, now we can sink our hips and reach out to the side and paddle out like so. And that's going to turn the nose of our board in any direction we want to go. So you want to make sure that you take at least a couple of strokes on each side before switching. If I switch over, the paddle's on my left side, my right hand will be on top, my left hand will be on the bottom. Keeping that nose straight, and then I'll switch sides again. Paddle's on my right side, means my left hand will be on top, my right hand is on the bottom. And you're gonna adjust your paddling according to the wind and the conditions and the type of board that you have. But you always wanna keep that nose of your board straight and switch it up when you feel it starting to turn. So now we're going to talk about a more advanced move, is the pivot turn or the step back turn. So 1, we're going to move back to the back of our board, split stance. We're going to take the paddle on one side, kind of lift the front end of the board as we turn. So we get that full turn, get back on, continue to paddle. So one way to improve your balance on the board is to, one, just kind of rock back and forth, get a feeling of the limitation of your board and your balance. And the next would be to just move around on the board. To the front, to the back, and you can use your paddle as extra balance out to either side. One important thing to know, if you ever get yourself in a sticky situation on the paddleboard, you can't stop. It's a technique I like to call the emergency stop or the emergency brake. Number one, you're going to get down to your knees. So if you do fall off, you're less likely to hit your head. And number two, you can stop yourself by putting the paddle behind you and pushing hard forward, like so. That's going to stop you and turn you one way and hopefully avoid hitting another object or boat. Alright, so one of the most important safety tips is to always wear a leash while on your board. Whether you're in shallow water, flat water, or out in the open water in rough conditions, you always want to have yourself on a leash attached to your board in case you do fall off. You're never far from your board, you can always get back on. And to do so, you're going to pick either leg, either ankle, strap it around like so, make sure the leash is to the outside or back of your ankle, and you're good to go. Another important safety tip is how to carry your board. If you do have a handle, you want to strap your leash to your handle or hold it in your hand along with your paddle so you can lift that board up and have a free hand. This free hand can control the board so it doesn't get blown in the wind. That way you don't injure someone or bump into something and ding your board. A couple more important safety tips to remember is to, one, always check the weather and surf report before heading out, and to always know the local rules and laws of your beaches and waterways. And the last safety tip is to paddle in a group. Number one, it's fun. Number two, you always have someone there in case of an emergency. And number three, it's a great way to learn from more experienced paddlers. For more information on paddleboarding and to join me for lessons and tours in the Fort Lauderdale area, you can check me out, Coach Chris Campbell, on my website at ecoxfit.com. And remember to join us for the FLIPANY FunRun and Paddle January 9th, North Hollywood Beach. And don't forget my 3 rules for a great paddleboard experience. Number 1, be safe. Number 2, have fun. And 3, always throw up your shaka.